Hey, and welcome back to 15 on the line. Hold on a minute.
Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
Hey, D, you're on the line.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Nakia. Here we are on the line on the last episode of the season. I am excited.
Last episode, season one. We made it through.
We made it through.
Woohoo! But we
Woohoo!
still have 15 minutes, so let's hop into it.
Okay, okay. I would like to thank all of our guests that we've had over the season for sharing their insights and their experiences about what it's like both inside and outside of prison. And I'd like to thank all the families that were willing to give their hearts to the conversation as well. I'm just very grateful to have been a part of that experience.
Me too. I appreciate everyone's willingness to help us out with our first season and tell their stories
Mm-hmm.
and just be very, very supportive. So I appreciate it, and I can't wait for everyone to see season two.
Neither can I'm definitely excited to see how the audience responded to season one, and going forward, build a family who's willing to take this journey with us.
So, having said that, what stuck out for you most in this last season?
Oh man, we had an episode called "God Bless the Broken Road," and in that particular episode, the young man that spoke, Lawrence, he talked about how you know how God had affected his life and his relationships, and how ultimately, even after suffering a couple of losses, that God still had a plan for him, that God brought him through, and he experienced these things to his betterment. We don't always see that when we're in this situation, and so that was just one of many, many things that stuck out. What about you?
I think one of my favorite episodes, I think they're all my favorite, was the interview with Danny Cosby, because he had so much insight about
Yeah,
being inside and outside of prison, and the fact that he is dedicating his life to prison ministry, to helping bridge the gap between inmates that are inside, men and women, to let them know that there's a better
right.
way, and that when they get out, that they have a great opportunity to start their lives all over again. And he was just a great interview and just a sweet person. It felt like I've known him forever.
Right, right. And I get that. I get that. Danny did have an amazing testimony. And speaking of testimonies, we were talking to Bishop, and he talked about the importance of giving people a chance. I thought that was very important. That kind of wraps into today's episode as we finish out the season about giving people a chance. We don't know either on the inside or on the outside what people are going through, what their mindsets are when these things happen. Your life can be changed in an instant, as a lot of people will testify. But still, I think people deserve a chance. What do you think is the mindset, Nakia, of people out there and second chances?
Well, you know what? I think people in general love second chances when they're the one getting the second chance. But when it's giving somebody a second chance, totally different story, right? We love God's
Right,
grace, but we don't offer as much grace to other people. So I think that we are, as humans, I mean, that's just a human trait. It doesn't. It's what we do. We are selfish, and we want
right,
what we want for ourselves. Don't always want those same things for other people. So now that, of
right,
course, there are really sweet people and there are open-hearted people, and there's people that are always going to give you a second chance, a 500 chance. But on average, I don't think that's the average person's mindset when it comes to second chances.
right, right, right. And this mindset of once a criminal, always a criminal prevents the reception of love compassion, understanding. I'm a firm believer that everything has a root cause.
Mm-hmm.
Everything has a root cause, right? So if you have a baby that's crying and acting out, the baby's not just crying and acting out, It's a root cause. Maybe he's hungry. Maybe he needs to be changed. These types of things. So there's a root cause.
Mm-hmm.
There's a root cause for why people use drugs. There's root cause for addiction. And there are root causes. So when you look at an individual, and I don't believe that anyone is as bad as the thing that they've done, but there's a root cause. There's something there that caused this situation to happen. No one wakes up one day and says, you know what, I'm going to murder some people. I'm going to do this. Nobody wakes up and does that. There's a progression. There's a cause. And I don't think that people in general are not willing to investigate the causes of, because it's usually pain. There's
Mm-hmm.
usually pain at the root. And they're not willing to, really get into the root pain of why a person behaves as they do. What do you think about that?
I think that, well, like I said before, like when you say, well, once a criminal, always a criminal, but a lot of people have the mindset, once anything, always anything. Once a liar, always a liar. Once a cheater, always a cheater. We like to put people in boxes, right? We don't want to believe or accept, because and mind you, we've been burnt. There are people that I've trusted over and over and over again, and I've given people a chance, and then the next person to come along, you're not giving them any chances, right? So those are situations like that. I think that when you trust is very easy to lose and hard to build, and way harder to rebuild, right? And so we are all a bunch of broken people in this world trying to protect ourselves from more hurt. And it takes God, and it takes a willing heart to let down your guard a little bit and trust and see the best in people. Because with media and everything, we're kind of conditioned to think the worst of people. Now, even though we say guilty until proven innocent, I mean, innocent until proven guilty, but it's really guilty until proven innocent, right? We're wired to think the worst in people. And I think it's because we know the worst in ourselves. And so we know what people are capable of doing, but yet we know that we're capable of changing, but we don't give that same grace to other people.
Right. So, you talk about being guilty until proven innocent. I'll be giving my story in season 2, and that's going to be very interesting as the readers that follow us to that point, to that story. But, and spiritually, because you mentioned that about Christians, and I think that one of the ways that people resist Christianity is because it calls and requires forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
We still live in an eye for an eye society, not a turn the other cheek society.
Right.
So, when people sometimes are presented with the gospel and the idea of forgiveness, oh no, I can't. How can you forgive such an awful thing? You don't know what was done to me, or whatever. And I get that there's pain and hurt with something that's done to someone, but forgiveness is an incredible gift given by God.
So you wanted to title this episode "Court of Public Opinion." So what does that mean?
Yes. The court of public opinion, as I see it, and I'm saying I have the end all be all definition or explanation or rationality for it, but sometimes you'll read something on TV, you'll see something on TV, you'll read some newspaper about a certain case or a situation, and you immediately go into judgment mode and deem them guilty. That's guilty. You don't know who's involved. You don't know why it happened. You don't know none of the. You don't have any of the pieces except your emotions, and your emotions say guilty. And I think that a lot of people have been brought down more so in the court of public opinion than they have in actual trial, in actual court. But we do that. And it's interesting how, being that, broadcasting here from prison and dealing with people that are in prison and hearing a lot of stories, I've heard a lot of stories over many years, I believe that people can be given a second chance. That people can, if they're given a chance, can show you that they're better than this thing that they were convicted of. But the court of public opinion doesn't want you to get a chance most times, because because they've already judged you and cast you aside. And I think sometimes to make themselves feel better about not being on the receiving end of that judgment. That makes sense?
That makes a lot of sense. So what do you want? Do you have any thing to tell your audience? What do you want them to take away? What questions do you have of them?
Okay, so this is the last episode of the season, and I really implore you, I challenge you to write in and let us know how you feel about the system. If you have family in the system, let us know how you feel about how they were treated, both before or after their judgments or whatever. How do you feel about the effect it had on your life? If there were things that you would have done differently, what would you have done? If there were policies you would have liked to see changed, what are those policies? You know, people have so much power and that they don't always realize it. And I just want our listeners to actualize their power in that way. We want to hear from you. We want you to tell us what you think about our season, about the people we've had on our season, about what your viewpoints are concerning all these different points and areas that we made, because we have tried to express in this season a human aspect of this situation, because they are human. We're men and women, flesh and blood people with families, with wives, with husbands, with children. And I'm talking about the world, but in prison, I'm in the male prison. So, all these men have children. They have parents and aunts and uncles and all these things. And those people are affected too. No one goes to prison by themselves. So what do you think about when you think about how this system is run, how its people are treated on all sides? And I want to hear all opinions.
All right. So what are you looking forward the most for next season?
Oh man, there is a lot going on for season 2, I promise you. And, getting into more of the human aspect of what happens. I mean, just the very fact that we only have 15 minutes on the line should tell you the dire need for connection.
Right. Because there's only so much you can do in 15 minutes, and they go fast.
And it goes fast. There's only so much you can do. There's only so much you can say. That being the case, next season is going to really be a really in-depth and emotional season. So strap in and get prepared for that.
Yeah, we have more loved ones. We have more guests that
Yes.
are, like you said earlier, that you don't go to prison alone. So that affects your family, it affects your girlfriend, it affects your spouses.
Right.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really fun. It's going to be interesting.
It's definitely going to be something that I don't want you to miss. So I encourage you to stay tuned and look for it.
Yeah, and your book will be finished, or at least, yes, it should be finished by then.
Yes, it should be. And I'm looking forward to working on that and seeing what that bears out. Everybody has a story to tell. That's my favorite saying. And so this is just mine, and I pray that the story that I tell touches you and helps you to see things maybe a little differently than you already do.
And there's a documentary in the works.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm excited about that. I don't even want to give that away. So be prepared for that.
Just a little sprinkle it, little teaser.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
That's good. There's our time. So how you want to close?
Thank you for a wonderful season, Nakia. Thank you for your help and your support and your care, your hard work. You have been a blessing to me in this first season. And I'd like to thank Abundant Faith as well. And just ultimately, I'd like to thank God for allowing all of this to take place. This is a unique opportunity.
It is quite.
30 seconds remaining.
You want to lead us out in prayer?
That being said, and Father God, we thank you for this season. We thank you and pray that it bears fruit, that it touches hearts, that it stirs minds, Father God, that they would come back for another helping next season, Father God, to see what else can be brought to the table. And we just give you all the honor and glory for all of this. And to all the listeners out there, thank you. And again, may grace and peace be upon you.
Thank you guys for your time. Thank you for your support. And we cannot wait to see you next season. So as Dee says all the time, may God's grace and peace be upon you. See you next season. Bye-bye. You can contact us on Facebook, YouTube, and Spotify. 15 on the Line is an Abundant Faith Media Group production. Thank you for watching, and be sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment.